Well, hello. Welcome to the show. My name's Tyler. This is Kevin Penrod. You guys are the worst. This is Kevin Penrod. This is Paul Clark. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Doing good.
I'm doing good. I'm loving the rhyme intro.
I didn't even try, man. It just happened.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
you hit it this time.
thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So anyways, hey guys.
Yeah, good to see you guys today. I want to start off with a really quick question. Paul, what is your Enneagram number?
I am a number 9. I know fairly little about the Enneagram other than I am a 9.
Oh, good. Well, there are
So-
9 numbers. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm the last number.
So you're at the top of the chart then.
I'm
That's
last.
how that works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a 9. Peacekeeper?
Mm-hmm.
So what it's called? Peacemaker. Peace.
He's the Enneagram expert.
I don't know. You tell
yeah.
me.
It's a peacemaker.
Okay.
It's the 9.
That's what I am. I'm a 9.
Kevin, what about you?
I am. I'm the 5. I'm the investigator. I'm also not super versed in the Enneagram, which is the exact opposite of what 5s like to be.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking about something that I don't know a lot about, which makes me really uncomfortable. So moving on.
I mean, you started really liking it, though, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Well, I could
I
talk about
had
the
my issues.
Enneagram for a really long time. So I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm a 6. That's the loyalist. And move on, because I could really
My wife
say,
is also a 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're well acquainted
I know,
with.
I know the 6s.
Great.
Well, my wife is a 6-wing 5. I'm a 5-wing 6. So we're just
I'm a 6-wing 5 as well. So
all right.
I don't remember what my wife's is, and I don't remember what my wing is either.
Wives and wings. I have a question for you guys today. I've heard the term more expensive, more better. It's very bad grammar, but that's what I've heard. And I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on something being more expensive? Does that make it more better? Go.
Oh, I'm up first.
I'm pointing at you.
Okay.
I will point at you as well.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I got lots of thoughts on this topic. At its core, it's all a stewardship issue, which I think we can all agree with, when we're talking money, and especially we're talking the church's money, we're talking a stewardship part. And so a lot of things have to go into play when you start needing to spend money. And this is a department where we could spend a lot of money really easily. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff out there that I think we all kind of want our hands on sometimes to play with, check out, see what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just not the right fit for what we need. And so, it's really a matter of finding the right tool for the right job. And sometimes the tool can be too big, and you just don't need an oversized, overexpensive tool to accomplish that mission.
Right.
So it's really important to just kind of know what the mission and goal is and how to achieve it, because if you're, shooting too far out of the goals, you're really taking money away. Sorry, excuse me. You're taking money away from another area of ministry, whether that's, I want to buy a bunch of really cool lights. Well, now Paul's PA can't be what it needs to be for the room.
Right.
Yeah.
Or in a church like Trinity, we're a very giving church, and so how many families at Bethesda could we feed
Right. Yeah.
if I were to cut my budget back a few $1,000s? Like,
A lot.
yeah, that may be a few
Right.
families or a few lights, but that's a whole lot of families.
Yeah.
And so,
So what's the value? What's the importance?
yeah, what's the value?
Yeah.
And so I've got another experiment that I read up on one time that I'll bring up, but I want to hear Paul's thoughts first.
No, I completely agree. I think that it for sure has to do with stewardship. If you don't have that at the core of what you're, at least in your planning processes, because we're all used to putting together budgets and trying to stick to a budget. And at the core of that, if stewardship's not the core of your intention, then you're going to be, I think you'll go off course pretty quick. But yeah, I think that spending more money on something, I know a lot of people want to spend or think that if they spend them, if I could just buy this piece of gear that's the newest, latest, greatest, it would make things better. And that's just false. I think that sometimes it is the right thing. I know we've gone both ways before, you and I both probably, on buying something that is really awesome and brand new, and it gets the job done. Buying something that's used and requires a lot of maintenance also gets the job done, but it accomplishes the purpose, which is, stewardship and making sure we're spending the money that the church has correctly, and adhering to like the vision and the values, laid out by our oversight and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of great examples I think on the table of times we have needed to even spend a decent chunk of money. And so I'm going to bring two up for Paul and I to talk about that I think are good examples of sometimes you do need to spend the money for the right tool, but it's actually still not an over expenditure. And so the two examples I'm talking about are your new consoles and then all the LED walls we've purchased over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about your consoles a little bit?
Yeah, so we bought 4 years ago, 5 years ago almost, 4 years ago, we bought the SSL L500 Plus consoles, which is like, that's their flagship console, absolutely one of the best in the industry. For sure not the most expensive console out there for live audio production, but it's up there. They're expensive. And they're worth what you pay for them, but they're not cheap. But for us at the time, the value, we were coming out of a season of using consoles that were just old, had run their course, and were getting unreliable. And our oversight decided that obviously reliability, and I completely agree, like reliability is paramount, because when we're faced with going into a season of, do we keep using these consoles as they become unreliable? The answer is no. So when we replace them,
Right.
do we replace them with something that's going to be decently reliable or completely reliable? Right. And that was the standard, was it has to be completely reliable. Those fit the bill. They completed everything they all the stuff that we needed them to do, technology wise, they did. They were expensive, but they're reliable.
Right.
No questions asked, just good. We can use them for 15 years pretty easily, maybe even further. So it's kind of a no-brainer for that one particular thing. So yeah, in that instance, we did spend more money, but it was the right call, and they have proved to be exactly what we intended them to be, which is they get the job done and they're completely reliable.
Yeah, which I mean, in the audio world, reliability is like the key factor. I mean, we could lose lighting and video and still survive with just audio, because at the core of what we're doing, the message has to be heard.
Yeah.
And we got to be able to get it out there for people. And so, like, at the bare minimum of what we're doing, if we could only record our weekend services on audio and still push it out for the world to hear the message, well, we're still accomplishing the mission. And so,
yeah, because we had those older consoles, did crap out one time.
yeah,
In the middle of I think it was in a Zion service maybe. Who it was?
I can't remember the guy's name. He busted out the shofar though.
Yeah. So it was what was his name? Paul something.
Blush.
No.
Is that?
We have a lot of
Anyways,
Pauls in this church.
there are.
We had a.
It's a church.
He was here one time. It wasn't him.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was here like in the middle of like doing like this big service. Worship center's full of people, like 4,000 people in the room probably, is packed. And the console died, our older ones that were becoming unreliable. It just died right at the end of service, towards the end of service.
Oh my gosh.
And it like, there's nothing you can do. Lights are on, video's rolling, doesn't matter. Like, you can't hear anything anymore. Everyone in the room is completely alienated from whatever's happening, and it was just like, oh. It was so bad.
That was a rough moment. I mean, like, the message was still heard that night though. Like,
Yeah.
he busted out the shofar. He went into, I think, singing Hebrew prayer
Yeah.
that night, and like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was still a really, really good night, and God still showed up.
How
Like,
long ago was this? Well, more than 4 years, because that's when the
It's
Oh,
been a while
gosh.
back.
Because I definitely don't remember this, and I've been at this church for a
it,
while.
it had to have been like 7 years ago.
I bet
It's
I was
been a
helping out
while.
children's
It's
bed.
been a long time,
Yeah.
because I was only on staff for a few years by that point.
Oh yeah.
Paul Wilbur.
That's
That
who
was
it
his name.
was.
That was his name.
Never heard that guy's name before.
He hasn't been here in a long
Paul
time.
Wilbur. I'm sorry.
We broke him after our
He's
service.
like, "That
He's
is
like, I'm
nice."
never going back there.
Those unreliable audio consoles.
These things are.
What a joke.
So, question real quick on reliability. Paul, you mentioned a few times that you're looking for a reliable console. How did you know that this particular console would be reliable? Were they pretty new when you bought them, or had they been tried and true?
They had been, so the one that we bought they had released that console, I think probably two or 3 years before we bought them, as like their new flagship console. And we had worked with SSL for a long time before that, and so I knew what their kind of like R&D process is.
Because the consoles we had were SSL, correct?
Mm-hmm. They were older,
But
like
still the same
studio
brand.
format consoles, big, like the large consoles. But yeah, so we had a relationship with him, and knowing the way they did R&D was a little bit different, in that they still do kind of release stuff a little bit after the curve, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they'll design something and test it, and when it comes out, the technology is like almost like not old,
Right.
but it's maybe like a year behind. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people want to like release this brand new thing that's like using the cutting edge, and theirs is like, because they go through the process of like really strenuously testing and making sure every component works, and then when it actually releases, it's like this stuff is actually like maybe like technology wise, it's like maybe a smidge behind, but it is foolproof. And so like when we bought our console, or we bought those two consoles, I asked them, the guys at SSL, I said, how many of these have died that you're aware of? In the field, by that point, there are hundreds, maybe even more than maybe thousands of them out there. And I was like, how many of these have died in the field, in operation, since y'all have set them out? Power supply failure, some other failure, none. Not one.
Really?
Not one. Like they've never had, at that point, and I haven't checked in since then, but that was 2 or 3 years into it. And of every single one they released, like not one had ever failed. So I'm like, well,
That blows me away.
I know. It's like their R&D process is like, I don't know how they do it or
Right.
what they do to make sure that it's like, I mean, everything is built with redundancies, ever done at power supplies, all that stuff, but it's ridiculous how bulletproof they are.
That's crazy.
So that was like, for me anyways, I was like, yeah, no brainer. Like these things are not going to fail.
Right.
And they're really good if they do. Like they will ship stuff out like same day.
Yeah, man, go SSL.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're awesome. Kevin,
I'm
you
not
mentioned you
being
had-
I'm not being endorsed by SSL to promote their products.
Well, I mean, not yet, right?
But if they're listening, sweet jacket, pretty cool. So Kevin, you mentioned that you had another point you wanted to make about this.
Yeah. So over the past about year now, the church has actually needed to buy some LED walls for certain goals that we've had in the church and tried to accomplish, especially with how video-based things are becoming. And so it's kind of crazy that in the last 12 months we've bought 5 LED walls, gotten them all installed in the midst of launching a campus a couple hours away, Who's This Jesus, Zion, and all the other little things that keep our jobs always busy. So it's been a real crazy run and gun year, but
I didn't really think that we had 5 LED walls. Like that's a crazy number. I never thought we'd have one.
yeah.
Honestly.
And so I didn't either.
Yeah.
But I was constantly researching them. They're just something that's kind of intrigued me, and knowing how they work and how they function and what makes them reliable and why some are better than others. And so, I guess that's the 5 in me coming out.
Good reference.
And so, yeah, kind of since they've hit the market, I've just really been interested in knowing what makes them tick, how they work, and finding all the things out about them, which kind of just being in that mindset super early on helped me. I had a lot less research and investigation to do when it came time to pull triggers. I was already very well armed with a lot of the knowledge, and a lot less conversations had to happen because we were operating on fairly crunched timeframes on both purchases. One was for the West Auditorium upgrade, and one was for the current worship center upgrade. And I think the West Auditorium, I had about 4 weeks from like go to be done.
It was fast.
Yeah, it was a quick move. And the worship center, I think I landed with maybe 2 to 2.5 months of put together a proposal and get budgets approved, pull trigger, and get it here.
But that wasn't just for the LED wall. That was for an entire revamp.
Yeah,
of
that
the
mean-
ceiling. There were 3 phases.
Yeah, that
Like,
one was a multi-phase project, but still, even just, in a lot of technical senses, like those wouldn't have been hard timelines to hit if we were buying new, but we opted to buy used. We were trying to save some cash. It would have been nice to had an extended warranty on all those LED walls, but it's just not what we needed. We didn't need, you know, the Lamborghini of LED walls. We needed something more in the range of like, you know, a Tahoe. Like it needed to be nice. It needed to like perform well and be highly reliable and could probably take a couple of hits because you know, we got some guys who are still learning how to operate them.
Yep.
So yeah, we got a couple of nice Tahoes, but no Lamborghinis, and I'm great with that. You know, I mean, we don't need a Lamborghini in the church to accomplish the church's mission.
Right.
We needed something that could pull the weight it needs to pull.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we ran into some issues. They came in and I think the first round, like literally 30% of the panels didn't function right. And so we had to go through a prolonged process of getting some turnaround happening there and get panels like repaired and shipped back and forth and doing all this.
I think Paul handled most of that.
Yeah, Paul jumped
On
in.
that first one, it was, there was a lot of back and forth.
Oh.
And then on the second round, a lot of them, I mean, like almost half on the second round came in with some major issues, some minor issues here and there. And luckily that company was just super nice to us. Shout out to Matrix Visuals. You'll never see this video, I'm sure, but those guys were awesome to work with. They actually flew 2 of their top techs down here for 4 days, and they were just plowing through like 12-hour days, doing all of these minute repairs, trying to leave us with the best product they possibly could, even though we bought used. And so they were really, really great to work with, taught us a lot about it, more than I even knew already. And so, I was really happy with both purchases, but, you know, it was a lot of research and time went into those purchases, I think on the audio side as well. Whereas, like, you know, in a kind of bad stewardship model, you could have just chunked money at it. And we've built up enough trust with our leadership. They would have believed us if we just said, oh, I need $1 million. I did not spend $1 million. But if I were to say that's the only option, like, we have a trust with them. That being said, we're not going to abuse that trust. We're going to do our research and our due diligence and put multiple options in front of them and be very open-handed with that and let them have a large say in how we're going to move forward.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that was whenever we bought those consoles, one of the options I found were buying them used. And they still opted to buy the new ones because they came with a 3-year warranty. The reliability, again, was like, this is important. Let's just get the new ones.
Yeah, I think it's a little different, though, when you have, like, one piece of gear that costs tens of thousands of dollars compared to an LED wall, which is a bunch of tiny pieces of gear that cost a few hundred here and there, and I can replace all the small pieces.
Yeah. You can spend $1 million or not.
It's this or no.
But it's, you know, really just being so plugged into what we're doing and wanting to serve that you can be open-handed with it, that you're not married to this really cool idea you build up in your own head of this piece of gear is the only right thing.
Right.
And so, you know, I mean, like Paul said, you can put the coolest piece of gear in front of a guy, and if they don't know how to use it, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or you can put a really experienced guy in front of a mediocre piece of gear and get an incredible product in the end.
Right.
Yep.
So it's less about the gear than it is about the person that's running it.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I think is like, I mean, our model here is like, it's tried and true, like for sure. Like we invest, I feel like, more heavily in people than we do just in gear. Like we invest a lot of money in gear, but we invest in people. And so at the end of the day, that holds true. Like if you can invest all your money in gear and no one knows how to use it.
Right.
You haven't invested in people.
I mean, at the end of the day, we work for a church.
Right.
So we're in the people business, not the gear business.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that.
You know, I mean,
at the end of the day, don't invest in gear, invest in people. I love that.
And
that's a little bit of gear.
You got to invest a little bit of gear. Like you have to have
gear.
some gear.
Not everything can be software based, like audio software.
But the more you invest in yourself and the people who are running the gear,
Yeah.
the better the gear can perform, because you're actually going to be able to achieve its top like performance level.
Right.
When most people who want to go buy the creme de la creme of gear don't even know how to get the best out of what they have.
Well, it's good to, like, I mean, like, you've done this, I've done this, like you have, like we've all learned Like we all cut our teeth on old broken gear.
Yeah, I mean that was my first job, was
Like,
fixing
that's-
all the old broken gear.
Right.
That's what I did.
And so like,
Yeah.
I value that, because like if I had started out with the best of the best, if I'd only ever driven Ferraris my whole life, it's like you don't have any appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Like it's just normal.
Well, and I think it limits your creativity on
Yeah.
how to make things work better.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
good.
the first lighting console I ever started with, and thank God it was not at this church, because it was the opposite of reliability. It was in my high school, and we literally turned it on by rubbing our feet on the floor and static shocking the console.
I just can't believe that.
It was
I gotta
100
see it.
it was the Randall High School
That's awesome.
theater, and like that was our first lighting console. Like
That is
it
amazing.
was what I started out on, and about 2 years into my theater time in Randall, like we got a new one. But yeah, it gave me a whole new appreciation for what, even semi good gear can let me do.
Yeah.
Because like I had to operate that thing on such a like hyper awareness level constantly that I got really creative in how to use it.
Yeah. No, it's important to learn that. I know like there's people that are like learning how to use stuff right now at the church, like new to whatever, lighting, audio, whatever, and they're having to learn. Because that's the thing is like we do have the really nice consoles, but we also have the old clunkers still. I mean, they're not old clunkers, but like they're the Honda Civic of consoles.
Yeah.
So it's like they're just they're great to learn on.
But like for you, it even goes past like going to our oversight and figuring out what they want out of it. You have more boundaries. Like you're working so close with the worship team.
Yeah.
They even need to have a say in what you're doing. Like how'd you find that stuff out?
Well, so like with the relationship with the worship team, to me was more. I'm not sure. Like it was more. I was more focused on and still have been like more focused on the relationship with the worship team, not related to gear. I would rather have a relationship with them and know what they're wanting and what they're trying to accomplish, gear aside.
Yeah.
And then and then I can take what they need, what I know that they want, whether it's like in your stuff, in your mixes, however they're wanting to accomplish their goal, I'll try to figure out something to make that work. And is that what you're asking? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, I think it gets a little bit. I definitely hear what you're saying. If it's all heart relationship first and not a bunch of gear talk, but when you have somebody like Till Merrick, who is a gear guy,
yeah,
I'm sure it comes up from time to time.
yeah. I mean, gear is important for sure.
Yeah.
In that regard, but again, it's like knowing how to use it that's really because we've had to do it with less. Like we've done more with less.
Right.
At different times, and it works. And it's because and again, it goes back to the stewardship thing of, I know what they need or what they're trying to accomplish this, and I've got to help them get there.
Yeah.
And so stewardship, I just have to decide like, what can I do? How can I allocate all of my skill, resources, whatever, to help them get this done without spending a ton of money, or maybe with spending a ton of money. But like the end goal still has to be helping them, same thing with like
Helping the rest of the church achieve the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like whether it's worship department, whether it's like making sure I'm not putting just a bunch of fluff in my budget because maybe I don't need to. Maybe they need to buy more backpacks at Bethesda. Like making sure that it all goes back to the stewardship.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the lighting budget's for, though, right? You fluff the lighting budget, so when you have to cut the whole production budget, you cut lights out.
Yeah, for sure.
No.
And now we've come full circle. Okay, guys, we're actually out of time for this tech talk. I want to make sure to push everyone to check out the new Chat with Jimmy and Kim. It's a podcast that they're hosting each week. The current one is called Quarantine Advice for Your Enneagram. We mentioned what our Enneagram numbers are. We'd love to hear what your numbers are. And Jimmy and Kim just did a great job of kind of letting us laugh at ourselves a little bit during this time. So I'm going to end our time with a quick prayer, and then I think we'll be wrapped for this week.
All right.
Father God, we thank you so much for this time we get to spend together, Lord. I pray for every single one of our volunteers, God, and really just our team members. I pray, Lord, that you would just give them peace during this time. God, that you would just be with us in every single thing we're doing, God. Be with our families and just give us protection during this time and excitement for when we actually get a chance to get back together physically and we can actually just all be together on one team again. We love you, God. Amen.
Amen. We'll see you guys next time.